Quite an experience to live in fear, isn't it?
That's what it is to be a slave.
Released in 1982, Blade Runner is a benchmark piece of cinema that put an art house lens on the cyberpunk genre and for the first time on film gave us an all too believably human and overcrowded future. Adapted from the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, this film was directed by Ridley Scott and stars Harrison Ford, Rutger Hauer, Sean Young and Daryl Hannah, as well as an incredible score by Vangelis. This is Blade Runner, Crammed. Early in the 21st century, the Tyrell Corporation advanced robotic evolution into the human-like nexus phase known as replicants, which were used off-world as slave labour. After a bloody mutiny by a replicant combat team in an off-world colony, they were declared illegal back on Earth, where special police squads called Blade Runners had orders to kill any trespassing replicant. This was not called execution, it was called retirement. Across a hyper-industrialized future LA landscape, we track into an office room of the Tyrell Corporation pyramid superstructure to where a test is being performed for a series of questions designed to measure a person's level of empathy and weed out possible replicants. The examiner is caught off guard, however, during this Voight-Kampff test, as the Tyrell employee across from him is indeed an android, who blows him through a wall with a high-powered handgun. Down in the dense multicultural street level where he's enjoying some noodles, Rick Deckard is found by a vice detective called Gaff, who flies him out by hovercar over the nighttime skyscrapers to the police HQ. His old chief pulls him back into active duty as a Blade Runner in order to hunt down 4 replicants that have returned to Earth in a stolen shuttle, and have already attempted an attack on the Tyrell Corporation that made them. Originally a group of 6,
2 of them got fried running through an electrical field. We lost the others.
Which prompted the Voight-Kampff tests on the new employees to catch out any infiltrators, conducted by Deckard's unfortunate predecessor. As well as the simple heavy lifter called Leon, the group includes a trained combat killer model called Zora, a simple pleasure model called Pris, and is led by Roy Batty, an advanced Nexus 6 model with increased training and intelligence. Gaff makes origami figures while Deckard is sent over to the Tyrell Corporation himself in order to ensure that the Voight-Kampff test could catch out an advanced Nexus 6 model like Roy Batty by testing it out on a model of their own.
Do you like our owl?
In the decadent upper levels of the pyramid, he meets Dr. Eldon Tyrell and his assistant,
I'm Rachael,
on whom he wants to see the test return a human negative result before seeing a positive.
What's that gonna prove?
Indulge me.
It takes some time, but Deckard discovers that she is in fact an advanced prototype replicant that believes she is human. She's been implanted with the memories of Tyrell's niece in order to give her an emotional framework for a more human response.
She doesn't know.
She's beginning to suspect, I think.
As a safety measure, in order to stop them from developing their own off-the-book personalities over an extended period of time, replicants are hamstrung with the ultimate failsafe: a 4-year lifespan. As Leon's registered apartment is being investigated for clues, he and Roy walk the night streets to visit Hannibal Chew, a genetic scientist responsible for designing their replicant eyes.
If only you could see what I've seen with your eyes.
Roy seeks information from his creator that can help extend his 4-year lifespan and wants access to Dr. Tyrell. He learns of another gifted designer called J.F. Sebastian who might be someone they can use to get inside the Tyrell Corporation before killing Chew. As he drives around the city, Deckard keeps listening to Leon's interview with his predecessor and returns home to discover Rachael has been waiting for him. Ever since his visit, Dr. Eldon Tyrell has lost interest in Rachael as a project and won't see her. She tries to prove that she is a real human, but Deckard has read her file and can recount personal memories that only she should know. He's hard on her but regrets it once it's clear that she's deeply upset. Deckard tries to offer her a drink, but she leaves instead. The replicant Pris waits outside of J.F. Sebastian's apartment under the guise of a scared homeless orphan.
I'm hungry, JF.
And he lets her in to stay the night and have a hot meal. He's a gifted and odd man who builds his own toy animatronic friends in his spare time and lives alone in a complete apartment block. so he's happy for the company. Deckard dreams of a unicorn before enhancing one of the photographs taken from Leon's apartment to discover Zora was there, along with the scales from an artificial snake. Thanks to a cellular level serial number, he tracks down the person who made the snake and learns that one was recently sold down in Chinatown for use in an exotic show. He visits downtown and rubs shoulders with some old contacts, but after a drink or two calls Rachael to see if she'd like to join him. That's not her kind of hangout, however, and she hangs up. Feeling guilty about her, he remains at the bar to discover Zora is working there as a snake dancer. Posing backstage as somebody from the entertainment industry, he approaches Zora to look for clues in her dressing room while she changes. But she sees through the ruse and nearly kills him before escaping onto the streets. It's a crammed chase that is more cat and mouse for a densely packed Chinatown with an incredible range of people and cultures all living on top of each other, before Deckard gets a line of sight and manages to gun her down. On the street, Leon watches on as the police disperse the crowd, and a visibly shaken Deckard stops for a moment to collect himself with a drink. Gaff takes him to meet the chief, who tells him that Rachael is now on the hit list too, as she has recently left the Tyrell Corporation pyramid without authorization, making her another illegal replicant on the streets. He spots Rachael out in the crowd, but is accosted by Leon.
Nothing is worse than having an itch you can never scratch. I agree.
Who demands to know about his own lifespan before easily disarming him and beating him with superior strength. He's about to kill Deckard, but is shot through the head at the last moment by Rachael. They both return to his apartment for a drink, and Rachael is still struggling to understand herself as being a product of business development instead of an actual person, trying to reconcile her implanted memories alongside her own self-awareness. As a rogue replicant, she's now a liability to society, and asks Deckard if he would hunt her as a Blade Runner if she tried to flee north. He explains that he owes her one for Leon, but that somebody would be sent after her. She asks after her own files on her lifespan, but Deckard pretends he hasn't seen the information.
You know that void comp test of yours? Did you ever take that test yourself?
Deckard and Rachael get close before he makes an aggressive, passive-aggressive mixed move on her until she agrees that she wants to sleep with him. Over at Sebastian's, Pris dolls herself up, much to the concern of his other toys, and quizzes him on his Medusa syndrome that makes him grow old at an accelerated rate, keeping him busy until Roy turns up. The implied threat of their presence starts to dawn on JF despite his apparent lack of social experience, and struggling with his new emotions, Roy tells Pris that they are the only two left. As a genetic designer, Sebastian can see that Roy is a high-level replicant, and he's coerced by the two of them into taking them up to meet Dr. Tyrell face to face. JF and Tyrell have a long-standing chess game, and Roy uses this as bait when Sebastian gets them to the higher pyramid levels in the late night.
Bishop to king 7. Check.
Bishop king 7 checkmate, I think.
As an intellectual, Tyrell is intrigued by the sudden excellent moves in their chess game and invites JF up to the final levels as he's curious to see what's on the designer's mind. It's his undoing, and Tyrell recognizes immediately what's going to happen.
It's not an easy thing to meet your maker.
Roy has come to query Tyrell on a number of advanced genetic and cellular techniques that might be used to extend his replicant lifespan, but Tyrell has already thought of and tried them all with no success. Roy is sweating freely now and doesn't appear to have much time left.
I've done questionable things.
With no hope of reprise, he kills his maker to Sebastian's horror before killing him too, again processing his emotions as he leaves. Following the discovery of their bodies, Deckard goes to visit Sebastian's apartment block, wandering the atrophied maze of the building before finding Sebastian's quarters and all of his toys. Pris hides in plain sight as another one of the dolls before trying to scissor his head off and going in with an acrobatic attack for the kill. He manages to shoot her down in a horrifying scene of agonized spasming like a haywire machine. Deckard then hides for an ambush shot as Roy laments the end of his friends with a kiss, but is unable to score a hit on the superior specimen. Roy knows that he's going to die and that Deckard is no match for him, so he toys with the Blade Runner, breaking his fingers for his lost comrades before returning his gun, and allows Rick a head start before he comes for the kill, experiencing another moment of genuine grief over Pris. There is a nature of an animal hunter about Roy as Deckard realizes he is completely outmatched and loses his gun in a bid to escape. Roy's body starts to shut down, but he forces himself onward through the experience of pain just to last a little longer. Deckard makes it out onto the ledge, still taunted by Roy, and climbs to the roof of the building. He tries a desperate leap to the structure next door, but barely manages to grab onto a beam. As he struggles helplessly, Roy leaps over to join him, but at the last moment decides to save Deckard's life. It's the end game for the replicant, and in the final moments of his life, Roy reconciles with his own mortality.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
And expresses the loss of the accumulated experiences that made up his life.
All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain.
It's hard to read into what Deckard is thinking in this moment, but it clearly has a profound impact on him. He's picked up by Gaff, who seems to be aware that Rachael is staying with him, and he returns to his apartment fearing that she too might be dead. He's relieved to only find her sleeping, and despite replicants being illegal, he appears to run away with Rachael in the end, but not before finding one of Gaff's origami figures outside of his apartment. It's of a unicorn, like the one in Deckard's dreams, indicating that Gaff has a literal insight into Deckard's mind.
Too bad she won't live. But then again, who does?
Thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed having Blade Runner crammed inside of you. Here on Film Cram, I'm trying to offer a full-on recap of a film instead of just some sort of 2-minute synopsis, in a manner that can hopefully both tell the story but also invoke some of the feelings and tones of a full version. So I hope this gives you a better impression of Blade Runner with an element of nostalgia if you've seen it before, all in the space of a tea break. So get in the comments and leave me your feedback. And of course, these things take ages to put together, so I'd love it if you'd subscribe. Take care.